definitely want to break that generational part of that where I wasn't really educated about money and I aspire to that. But to me, this the whole changing multiple generations in your family can go across the board in so many ways, whether it's multiple generations of divorce or whether it's, you're the first generation Christian in your family or whether, you're the first generation of Christian who's actually like consistent and faithful and, has your family in church and given your life to the Lord in a way that previous generations haven't. I feel like it impacts like so many areas. And so I'm curious about that part. I see Jennifer's on here, but when you guys were reading that part about the fact that he was the one that was the person in the family that did that, how did that speak to you guys? Like, did that stick out to you in any way like that, that you were like, I want to be the first person in my family to change my family in this way? Did that stick out to anybody else other than me? Please share. If not, it could have just been me because I don't know. There's definitely, I feel like I believe as a mother, my biggest legacy is going to be my children. And my parents were wonderful parents, but there's things that I was missing that I needed as an adult that, it's one of those things where they were traveling with the light they had, as a southern saying is, and I want to help fill in those gaps for my children. But to me, one of the ways that I want to do that is by reading these kinds of books and constantly learning and opening my mind and my horizons and thinking bigger and not narrowing my vision to well, this is the way life's going to be. This is just the way things are because that's the way it was for my parents and that's the way it was for my grandparents. And I want to break some cycles. And one of them is definitely finances. So, Jennifer, I see that you're on here, ma'am. I will let you take the wheel. I've been talking.
No, that was good. That was good. Um, yeah, I didn't necessarily think about that when I was reading, but I have thought about that recently just in examining um like parents and like grandparents and some the way my mom was raised, specifically the way Austin's dad was raised, like they chose to build different lives than what how they were raised, very different lives, and the result of that those decisions had on their children. And then in that same regard, like you said, your parents are traveling with the light that they have. And I do feel like we've talked about this at Golden Retreat. I remember a couple of years ago, I think we were talking about just um, being the intentionality with our children and learning and growing and like how exciting it is to actually be a part of something that you know that you can change and shift things for your kids, even to a greater degree than what my my mom and then Austin's parents and my parents did for us. Like we can even broaden that. So I think that's just really powerful. Um, this is funny. You're gonna laugh. So I was doing my, I mean, you may not laugh, but I was doing my exercise video this week, and I was like, she would stop doing her thing, and I was like, one more. Literally every single time. Sit up. One more. So that
I
is
wish
how
I could have been a fly on the wall. That is just like
power,
so
that's how this book has transformed me so far. I did like one more curl and one more whatever the exercise was, one more squat. It was so funny. But I was like, the power of one more. So, anyway, don't do that when you're eating Oreos. Just one more. Okay. Anyway, all right. So, introduction super quick. Yeah, and I heard what you were saying about the plastic surgery and looking at him. That's so funny. That made me laugh.
I'm such a snob. Like I'm terrible. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm too transparent, but I just had to say it because I'm like, okay, bro's successful and very deep. And that's I'm like, I can't, you know. I and the thing is that my father-in-law, because I was reading it in the car on the way to church, and he doesn't drive at night, so he and my mother-in-law were in the car and on going to church on Sunday night, and then Tyler, and they were talking about the title, and they're like, "Oh wait, I thought success was this, and I thought success was that, and I thought, and they were just being sarcastic." And I was like, "Well, let's see, seeing as he's a millionaire, I think I should probably still read the book because he might have something to say that could help me." I'm like, he's a millionaire. I'm not. I might could learn a thing or two.
Yeah, even if it's not, yeah, I know, I agree. So one of the things that I highlighted in the introduction part, which was interesting because I normally don't highlight in the introduction, but when you compound those small thoughts and actions and you stack them up on top of each other, like we've read The Compound Effect. If you haven't, that's a really good book. But that part reminded me of that, like the individual thoughts and actions you take don't need to be profound, but when you compound these small thoughts and actions and stack them up, the resulting changes over time are profound. Like it's huge. So even if you're just working on, one more whatever life, we'll keep. I mean, let this is plexus a lot, but oh, my battery's low. Doggone it. Um, Anyway, I'll do that in a second. But the pop, like one more reach out or one more arm curl or whatever. Like it doesn't it's so easy to be short-sighted, and I'm guilty of this, and I think it's a lot of times human nature. But because we want to make the easiest decision in the now, right? In the moment. But we have to remember, what is this going to do a month from now, 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What is this one small decision or this one small thing that I'm trying to accomplish? How is that going to play out long term? So the power of one more, like it's really powerful, right? I mean, I can choose it in the same way that it can be good, it can be bad. I can choose to eat one more Oreo. And if I do that every time, the result 6 months from now is going to be very different than if I didn't choose, if I chose to do one more app crunch. So anyway, um, I don't know. That just really stuck out to me. I don't know if that was helpful for you guys, but and then also, oh, and this is all the amens. On page 5, the bottom of the paragraph, he says, the more worthy a goal and the more changes you go through to reach it, the more resistance you will encounter. And you guys, how many of you feel that? Like all of us, right? I mean, the more worthy the goal, the more resistance you encounter. And he says, expect it and plan for it. I mean, that's huge. Expecting it and planning for it. And that's oftentimes what I don't do is I don't put like a fail proof plan in place sometimes, or I have these expectations that, oh, this is, you have this great plan with Plexus, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be diamond, I'm gonna be emerald, or whatever it is, and I'm gonna make $1,000 a month. And then you come up against, you got to change. You got to change your actions. You got to change your thoughts. You got to change your habits. And then that resistance creeps in. It's hard. And we don't, and we act like we're surprised. It's so funny. I'm like, why am I surprised that this is hard? Nothing in life that is worth having is easy. I mean, like literally, for those of you who are Christians, like, oh, I'm gonna be a follower of Jesus. It's gonna be so easy. Like, no, your marriage is hard, parenting is hard, like all relationships are hard. So why do we expect it's so funny. Like we have to expect things to be difficult, and we have to plan for it. And we shouldn't be surprised when it is. But just because it's hard does not mean it's bad. Just because it's hard does not mean that it's not what we should be doing. Um, so yeah, okay. Anybody have thoughts on the introduction part? I'm gonna grab my charger while y'all talk. On the introduction section, did you have things that you highlighted?
This is not super deep, but he was talking about um keeping promises to yourself, and that's something that is super hard for me, like very hard to the point like where when Amber Miller was talking about identity at the Nashville event a couple weeks ago, like I feel like that has a lot to do with it. Like I've told myself, you don't keep promises to yourself, so you might as well not follow through with what you said you were going to do. And so that, I'm just working on my mindset, working on changing those thoughts. But that was just interesting that he wrote that as something that was important.
I heard a little bit of that, keeping promises to yourself, right?
Well, I just put in the messenger that being a rescuer as my personality puts me in I allow myself to be put in positions where I break promises to myself regularly because so I
Mm-hmm.
don't trust myself. Like I don't trust myself to keep a commitment
Mm-hmm.
because to me, it's okay if I break promises to myself because the most important thing is that I don't break a promise to someone else or I don't let them down. Like it's okay if I fail at my health. It's okay if I get sick. It's okay if I don't meet my, you know, business goals as long as that other person does.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that um, reading books to me has been one of those things where it's a measurable thing, a measurable promise that I can keep to myself because there's physical evidence of it. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, that's why when you said book club, I'm like, I'm in because I need the accountability. I need to be able to say, I did what I said I was going to do for myself, and here it is.
Mm, that's really good. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. When I told my husband that I was going to do book club, Julie probably will laugh. I probably have read like 5 books front and back my whole life. I'm not a reader. Then he laughed at me when I said I was going to do a book club. And I called my mom yesterday to inform her, and she laughed. And I said, "All right, I'm reading her the plan. All right, I have 2 chapters." And then I'm like, "Oh man, I have chapter 6." And she's like, "Oh, you got, you know." And I was like, right off the bat, I was pretty much telling myself, "Oh, well, you suck at this, you know?" And that was like my mindset going into it. Like, it wasn't like, "Oh, this is gonna be great," or it was, "Oh, watch, I'm gonna fail because I've never completed an entire book before in my entire life." Um, but I'm on chapter 5, and it's it's exciting, but at the same time, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, it's so convicting to the point of, um, I don't know if this is into chapter 1. I'm not entirely sure, but
Doesn't
like
matter.
God didn't design me to be like lukewarm. Like He didn't design me to just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, well, haven't read a book front to back in 3 years, so I might as well not do it now, because I haven't done it before or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is very much of a it's a goal, but it's something that I'm taking pride in because it's like I can't believe I'm actually reading a book. And my husband's in an appointment right now, and I said I have to go with you. He's like, "Why are you going with me?" I said, "Because I have to sit in the parking lot and I have to do book club. Because if I don't, I'm gonna probably eat Oreos and watch TV, and this is not ideal." Okay. And I told Abby that I was gonna do book club. So I was like, "Watch, she's gonna message me if I'm not on there." And I have my book, so I bought the book, so I have to read it. So I mean, I don't know if that's an encouragement to anybody else, but I bought in a lot of books, and I haven't read them. And I'm reading this one. And, you
Proud.
know, I deserve to read a book. My toddler's in the car and she's very cranky. But yeah, so just being lukewarm with where I am and not giving myself the opportunity to actually do something for me is
Mm-hmm.
something that is normally not a norm for me, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm gonna mute myself now.
I love that. Oh my word, that's exciting to me. Like that is exciting to me. That you are reading a book and you say that you're not a reader. Well, okay, I was thinking like I'm not a reader, but I am becoming one, or I love learning and growing. Like change that. Like that was what Amber was talking about. Like she doesn't speak to her daughter is like kind of a shy person, but she's like, I don't say, "Hey, oh, this is so and so. She's so shy." Like I don't speak that over her because we become what we speak and what we repeatedly hear, whatever. So change those words. Like, and that's the thing, it doesn't have to be like all Pollyanna, like this thing that's completely untrue, but it can be like, but I am growing, but I'm getting better, but I'm improving. But look at me, I've read a chapter. Woohoo, So, and look, you were intentional. You got in the car with your husband. That's so great. I'm so proud of you. Like, that is so big. It's so funny. And like, we want to discredit, like, and some people might be like, oh, well, it's just a book that you're reading. No, 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 no. You know what I mean? Like, that is a big thing for, don't discount and discredit any step that you take for self-improvement, to better yourself, to grow your relationship with the Lord or whatever. I mean, I think growing yourself as a person, to me, is growing a relationship with the Lord, whether or not, I mean, personally, just because you're finding out more. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry, Julie, you're laughing. Why are you laughing? Did you think? Okay. No, we don't need to know why you're laughing.
No, we forgot to change our name on here to Aunt Jemima.
Ah!
Well, that was all. That was all. Sorry, we were gonna get back on here. If you were on the last Zoom, Jennifer was talking about Aunt Jemima, and we don't know why, but we were gonna come back on here as Aunt Jemima, and we forgot. So sorry.
It was I don't know why it was the name that came to me, not like Sally or Susie. It was Jemima. So I don't know. Anyway, that's so funny. Well, I'm proud of you, Mackenzie. Good job. That's so great. Okay, so chapter one more identity. Does anybody have anything that really, the thermostat stuck out? That was a big one. Abby's like, yes. Okay, do you have some stuff you want to say here? I saw you did a story about this actually.
Yes, no, I've texted Amanda so many times about this. Like, it made me cry reading it because it's just kind of the same type of thing as far as identity. But I told her I read it, and immediately in my mind, I'm like, this is why I could do so well in September and have exponential growth and do all the things I knew I was supposed to do to grow in Plexus and then revert back to where I am right now. Because I'm set at 75 degrees. I don't truly think that it's sustainable for me to succeed, and it's just like those kind of limiting beliefs. So yeah, that I have been saying that about everything. I'm looking at my sister, I'm like, you're at 75 degrees right now. Like, you need to turn it up. And she's like, shut up, Abby. But for real, that analogy just like clicked with me for some reason.
Yeah, that was so good. Well, okay, and what has your sister recently come out and said she's gonna do?
Yeah, and truly, honestly, it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if the Lord gave that to me so that I could help her because I feel like we have a lot of the same limiting beliefs. So like with her podcast, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, we're making the Instagram tonight. Otherwise, you're just gonna keep talking about it and we're not gonna do it. And then I was like, all right, and I'm setting the date when you're gonna post it. So you have to film it. And so like I'm kind of able to encourage her and help her. I mean, this sounds so cliche, but I don't not believe in herself in like
I
a
know.
world sense, but in just the sense of like this is what you're supposed to be doing, and like let's make it happen.
And Amanda said all these plans came on the way home from Nashville. Oh my word. That's so great. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Addie is going to start a podcast called Good Grief, right? And she's going to be sharing, I don't, what is her?
So she's first sharing like her story. The first episode's coming out on Mother's Day because she said it's like a mom to her mom, which is so cute. But she's just sharing like her own personal story and then having guests that have different experiences and
Mhm.
just talking about all kinds of different topics.
Oh, that's going to be so good. Yeah, that's going to be so great. And look at you, like you are encouraging her. But that's the thing. That's the thing that when we intentionally, and that word has been like ringing around in my brain for the last few days, living life on purpose, living life with intention, living each day with intention. I don't care if your day is wiping snotty noses and changing diapers and cooking, cooking 3 meals a day at your house and mopping floor. I don't care. Living that day with intention, looking for how can I bless? How can I serve? How can I improve my attitude? Whatever. Just looking and living with intention and living with purpose. And I feel like when we intentionally grow, we live with intention, and then like Abby, like you're encouraging your sister, we're going to do this, you're helping, and that's part of the things that part of your growth, and you're impacting her. And she's been, growing. I mean, obviously, she's done personal growth and development too, as well with you. But I'm just saying, like, our impact is so huge on other people, and we just I can't get all my words out tonight, y'all. Our impact is so huge when we are intentional with our lives. It can be so much bigger, right? And that doesn't have to mean we're going to reach thousands or millions. It could, but just our community, just our family, because you don't know what your impact is going to do for somebody else, and then boom, they're going to be the one, like you don't know that. So I love that. That's so exciting. Okay, anybody else got stuff with chapter one?
I have one more thing on the thermostat
Yeah.
part. Um, oh, you have my blinker on. That's great. In the convicting category is where it said, God didn't create me to live or to set my thermostat at 75 degrees. Um, and that just told me, like, he didn't create me to just live with that mentality of not ever reading or just not ever like overcoming that, like, not like low part, but like I never really been a book reader. So then he went in to say, like, he created us to live a full of our full faith-based life with a thermostat set at 100. And that was just like, oh man, because like I don't live my Christianity life full at 100 all the time, that's for sure. So I mean, that alone was like really convicting. I kept reading. My husband got me a chair to put in my room so I could read because we're using it as like a, come on, you got this. So I'd read something. I'm like, oh my Lord. I'd run out there. I'm like, listen, we do not live our life at 100 degrees. He's like, what are you talking about? And so it's also like creating like this conversation for him and I when we're like so done with parenting. It's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, I got to read you this page. He's like, okay. Like the last thing he wants to do is listen to me tell him that he's, got to buck up because we're behind. But that alone was like insane that like something as a few degrees may not, seem like that big of a deal. But really like we're letting ourselves down, and that alone was just really like shame on me for living a 75-degree life. So anyways, is
That's
all.
so good. Like your husband's growing as a side effect, right? He's growing too. I love it. That's so awesome. Anybody else have anything on chapter one?
I feel like with perspective to, I mean, my personal life in general, but also specifically to my business, is the quote that you won't use temporary setbacks as an excuse to create permanent failures. And to me, one of the things that stuck out to me the most about when Amber Miller was talking on the last training that I listened to, I believe it was the Rising Diamonds one, and she said that network marketing is literally the only business you can be in where you take it personally when things don't go well. And she
Mm,
says it's ridiculous. She's like, because what other entrepreneur that owns a business would say, man, I'm not selling enough suits because I didn't look cute enough on my social media? Or oh, I didn't sell enough, pots and pans or whatever. You have a brick and mortar store. No store manager's like, man, sales were down this week. It's probably because I didn't say the right thing on my stories. And it's just like she talked about the fact that we take it so personally instead of viewing it from a business perspective that this isn't a personal thing. It's about consistency and pursuit. And to me, I think that a lot of people are like, oh, well, when you're a jewel, it's different. The only thing I feel like is very different from not being a jewel and not being a jewel was I see the longer game.
mhm.
Because I remember when I was fighting for senior gold and I was like, every month, I was like, oh my word, why won't that one person order? You know? Instead of seeing it as I'm gonna let her breathe for a month or two and then we'll come back and be like, you still don't feel good. So let's get you plugged into, this challenge that we're doing because you're the one that came to me, or that you said that these were your goals. Back then, it was a month to month roller coaster of emotions where it was super high because they ordered and super low that they didn't order. Whereas to me, being on this side of things further. And it may not have anything to do with being a jewel. It may just have to do with 9 years in, is that there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, but no other business pays me like this business does to help people feel better. No other business like this business has given me vision for my family and a completely different perspective on life of what can be possible for my children, for my marriage, for ministry, service to the Lord, all those things. So I'm determined to not allow a bad month, a bad quarter to determine make it as like it's a permanent setback because there's nothing permanent except our salvation.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That's good. That's really good. Anybody else have anything from chapter 1? Chapter 2 was really good. I love the brain stuff. Any about the RAS. That was such a great reminder of this was also the matrix section, so that was exciting. But your reticular activating system, RAS for short. It's like creating a one more identity. Okay, let's see. I have heard that before, and it's so true. Um, on page 25, here's an example that illustrates how it works. Let's say you want to buy a blue van and you start seeing blue vans everywhere. The blue vans were always there. You just never noticed them before. You see them because they become part of your RAS. They've been filtered into your consciousness since they've become important to you. For example, this extends to other parts of your life. Your clients, your level of fitness, the relationships, the emotions you want become your blue vans. They were always there. You just never saw them. Um, I love this. I loved this part like so much just because it's hard for me. Like it was a challenge for me because whatever he says here, you have to slow down. Like where was it? He said, I just literally had it and I didn't underline this one, chapter 2, even though I'm going back and rereading and underlining again because I don't know why I didn't underline. I think I didn't have an underliner, the highlighter the first time I read this. Anyway, basically you have to slow down to speed up. So that can be hard for me. I don't know about you guys. Anybody can feel like some people they John Maxwell talks about the reflecting and thinking and writing and all that. And then yeah, that's hard for me to slow down so that I can speed up. So this was a little bit of a challenge to me to kind of slow down.
On page
Um,
27, oh,
yeah.
on page 27, it says when you strategically slow down your physical and mental being, you create a space that allows your senses and brain to reset.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't really know the whole RAS thing, so that was also like the perspective that he put it in and the examples that he gave. Um, it was almost like teaching me something that like I didn't even ever know before, and really choosing to slow down and like allow my brain to like not understand things, but maybe process things in a different way. Um, was it really like spoke to me in a way, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really challenging to me. And then you have to consciously decide which path that you're going to choose on page 28 on the next page. Um, and that's when he starts talking about the Matrix, the blue pill and the red pill. And that makes me want to go back and watch that movie. It's been ages and ages since I saw that movie. So now I'm like, I need to go back and watch that. But I mean, this goes along with the biblical concept of like, in Proverbs, what as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I mean, like what we think about is so important. I mean, the Bible's full of this kind of stuff. But you have to decide, like this morning, if you wake up in a grouchy mood, it's like, I have a decision to make. I feel grouchy. I feel irritable. But I know that that path is, first of all, it's not, the way I should be walking as a believer. But secondly, just because I feel something doesn't mean that's where I stay. So I have to consciously choose what steps am I going to take? Like I've literally had to do this multiple times. Especially through the last year. Like I've had different like weird anxieties and weird things out of nowhere. And if you know me, like I'm not, you know me, I'm not an anxious person. So I've had to really like learn how to, okay, what can I do today? Like I'm feeling this way, but what steps am I going to take? I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to turn all the lights on. I'm going to put some peppy music on. I'm going to go, what is it that fuels my soul that makes me, I'm going to write some things down that I'm grateful for. Like have to be intentional with your life so that you can consciously decide which path you're going to choose. Like that's making a conscious decision. I don't feel like doing it, but when I take these actions, things shift and things change. A lot of times I don't feel like working my business, but once I sit down and send that first message, it's a lot easier to send that second. And then 30 minutes later, I've sent like six or seven, So it's making that conscious decision. Um, anyway, yeah. So that was something that really stuck out to me, consciously deciding. And then I love all the brain things. So that makes me happy. Anybody else have anything from chapter 2? No? Nothing else on chapter 2?
Well, I was gonna let somebody else talk,
I know.
but this one may be kind of a harsh truth it was for me, so I don't mean it to come across that way. But when he's talking about the Matrix part and where Neo decides which pill that he takes and he chooses the one of free will, but it is the uglier reality. And
Mm,
that to me is something that I feel like a lot of us have a tendency to avoid and that's one of the reasons why there's a thing called doom scrolling and there's the distracting ourselves and all those things. It's because we are choosing to not look at the reality of where we are and really be honest with ourselves about what we are not doing. And it makes me
mhm,
think of that training that Amber did where she had everyone rate themselves at the beginning of the call. She asked a bunch of questions and she's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate yourself. And it was so eye-opening
mhm.
because when you really start to sit down and assess, it takes away your excuses. And I feel like a lot of times we do not choose to look at the reality of where we're at, whether it's in our personal walk with Christ, whether it's being the wife that we need to be, the mother that we need to be, the entrepreneur, the steward that we need to be of our businesses. Um, and I recently did something. I got a skylight calendar for my family, and it was a sacrifice purchase, but I knew my family needed it because I have taken on a role with iOS where I'm helping out in that ministry a lot, and it has made life crazy. And I felt like I was literally chasing my children around the house, nagging them, pick up this, pick up that. You got to clean up after yourself. You got to do this. And I'm like, and Tyler and I talked about it for weeks. Like, I've got to do something because the reality is I'm being a nagging, angry mother, but the problem is not getting fixed either because it's a disaster and they're not taking care of their business. And so when I sat in that reality and dealt with the guilt and all those things, then the Lord gave me this idea of using this. And I saw it on a reel. A family used it. And I'm like, holy smokes, this is perfect. And I kept praying about it and I got it and it has been revolutionary for our family, for our chores. It has completely changed the game. When I say that my children, especially if you have children who have ADHD, the dopamine of clicking off a task, it makes them so happy and so motivated. But it was not until I stopped normalizing my nagging.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until I was like, well, all moms do this. how, all moms are like this. It's what we do.
Yep.
But like I knew that I didn't have peace about it and I knew it wasn't right. So until I sat in the reality of I am being a nagging mother, that my children are not, I do not want my children to look back and remember me like this kind of
Hmm.
a thing. And so doing that in areas of our life but he chose the more uncomfortable reality.
Hmm.
And to me, that is one thing that this business has done is choose the more uncomfortable reality so that you can have a reality that a lot of people never get to experience.
Yep. That's good. Well, when you were talking though, it's also like if you sit, you're sitting in it and you have a choice to make. Like I can feel these guilty feelings and I can basically become a victim of, oh my goodness, I'm just so overworked. And oh my goodness, if these kids would just get their act together. And oh my goodness, da, 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 da. You can become a victim, or you can sit in your feelings, feel the feelings, and pray, okay, God, I need discernment. I need wisdom here. You have what seemingly is an answer from the Lord, and you took action. You became a victor. You were not a victim any longer. Like you're like, I'm going, like, what can I do to pick up the shovel and get to work and change this? So I love that because it's easy to be, in one sense, it's easy to be a victim. I mean, all you got to do is just do nothing and complain. Right? There's no work on your part, nothing changes, the frustration remains, but like nothing gets accomplished either. But in order to be a victor, you have to fight. Like we're not going to be victorious if we don't fight. We can't be victors unless we fight. And so you fought. You sat with it, you prayed about it, and by golly, you did something, and then things are better. That's awesome. I need to look into that thing too. I've heard about that. Um, the skylight calendar thing. So I'm proud of you, Julie. Woo! Good job. That's motivating. Um, I love the last page of the chapter 38. Remove procrastination from your life. Procrastination is an opportunities assassin. I was like, ooh, that's so good. Few things are more expensive than opportunities you miss. You pay for them with regret, doubt, and a lingering, haunting feeling of what could have been. And that is so sad to me. Like, I do not want to be that person. Have y'all ever read Andy Andrews' book, The Traveler's Gift? If you have never read that book, you should read it. It's so good on Audible too. It's a really good audiobook. But in that, he talks about he has these encounters. I'm not gonna give it a whole spoil sport, but anyway, basically there's like a chapter of the book where it's what could have been, all the possibilities, all the things God had for you, like you just basically needed to go forward and take action and claim them, and not like name and claim it, but you know what I'm saying. So but opportunities that you miss, and I'm like, God, please, like that is a prayer, please help me not to miss opportunities that you have for me, because I'm lazy, I'm procrastinating, I want to be a victim. Like, please don't let me do that. Right? So that was really challenging for me. Anybody else have anything for chapter 2? There's Amanda.
Sorry, hey, I was in the van earlier and couldn't talk. One of the things I wrote down that spoke to me at the end of the chapter was self-confidence is not about doing away with fear. It's about moving forward anyways because of the agreements you made with yourself. When you self-sabotage, you dial down your thermostat and deny yourself the bliss that was headed into your life. Their lack of discipline is a lack of self-confidence that does not match up and support their identity. And I really related to that because I feel like lately my lack of discipline, I feel like I've let some discipline slip in areas in my life, and it's affecting my self confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news about that is who's in control of our discipline. I mean, ultimately, it's us. So that's something that's not an external factor that we have no control over. So it's something that just reminding yourself, I am in control of this. I can, get back on track and be more disciplined. But I wrote down, this at the end. Are you self-sabotaging your business when you don't do the activities you know you need to be doing?
Mm.
And if you would have asked me before reading this book, if I self-sabotage my business, I probably would have said no, you know. But now looking back and reading about the thermostat, I'm like, it does make very much sense. Like it all just kind of, because I've really never felt worthy to be Emerald. I felt like it was just because I had a good nail line, everything because of that. So therefore it's been a struggle. So I really didn't see myself as worthy or deserving of this, that it was just basically a fluke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now what's happened, I've believed those thoughts and I've lowered my thermostat and I'm not maintaining Emerald. So, I mean, can you really get further to that next ranks when you're thinking those kinds of things? So basically, I unconsciously really just dialed back that thermostat without even realizing it, like, so anyways, I mean, so that was kind of just spoke to me about the self-sabotage part and just realizing that I have done that unconsciously. And then not just that, and I'm sure in other areas of my life too, but that just specifically spoke to me about the business.
That's really good.
But I mean, really, if you think about it, for those of us that have been here a long time, we have access to all this incredible training. I'm listening to a lot of training, but I'm still not doing some of the discipline. I've let my discipline slip of doing the activities that I know I need to be doing to grow my business. So therefore, am I sabotaging my business? I mean, I really am when I choose to do what I know I should choose not to do, what I know I need to be doing, and it's really just living in mediocrity. In other words, when you don't, you're not striving for excellence, because really, even though, like y'all were sharing earlier, I'm thinking 75 thermostat, mine's probably like a 25, like 75 be on the uprise, we're getting closer. But I mean, really though, if we're not striving for that 100, we're really not striving for excellency in all the areas of our lives. And even if we miss it, we can still always, do a little bit better, do the next right thing to be more intentional and better in all areas of our lives. All right. Anyways, that's my thoughts.
That's good though. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any last thoughts? This has been really good. I have not read ahead like Mackenzie has, so I have to catch up with you, girl. You're already ahead for next week.
It was a good week. Okay, I may not be able to always do that, but
No, that's really good. Any last thoughts before we get off? This was so good. I'm really enjoying this, and I can't wait to hear Ed speak. I think it's going to be so that much more powerful, because I know whenever I heard John Maxwell speak at convention, that was really powerful, just because I'm like, oh my goodness, I've read so many of his books and listened, to his trainings and stuff, and so it's so powerful. Well, it's been so good to see you guys tonight, see your faces, and hopefully next week, let's see. Yeah, we have our schedule up. Is it 3, 4, and 5, I think, next week? Maybe. It's on our schedule, but we'll put it up again. But I think it's 3, 4, and 5. So just a few pages a day. All right, guys. Thank y'all for jumping on, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye.